Hello everyone. Welcome to the stream. Hi everyone. Super excited to see you folks in the stream. We will be waiting for a couple of minutes before other folks joining, and then we'll get started. Uh, awesome. I can see folks joining in. I would love to know where are you joining from, and if you have attended the part one of this series, this is basically the part two of this API track. And don't worry if you have not joined in the first part, because I'll be covering the contents and guiding you throughout the stream, so you don't need to sweat about it. I would love to know who is joining from the first part though, and where are you joining from, people. I'd love to know which city or country you are from. Super excited to see you all here. Let's wait for a few more moments and then we'll get started. I'm feeling a bit thirsty though, so this is a reminder for you all to bring some water. Awesome. Great to see that. Rasmi, you attended part one as well. Cool. I hope you got all the contents from part one. That's going to be really helpful. Awesome. From Nepal. I am also from Nepal, by the way. Cool. Let's wait for a few more folks and then we'll get started. How are you enjoying this Global Hack Week, people? I hope that all the sessions were fun as well, because like I joined a few of them and they were really good. I hope you all are enjoying the same. Let me pull my screen. Cool. I hope you all can see my screen. So, yep. Welcome, folks. Welcome to the stream. Welcome, everyone. Awesome. So, without any further ado, I guess we should start now. So, hello, everyone. This is the part two of the APIs made easy with Postman track. And in this particular stream, we will be talking about authorizations and workflows. For those folks who did not attend the part one, we basically covered what was API and what is Postman, how to use it, and we just quickly went through different type of request and response. So that is all that we did. And if you have not uh, followed in part one, don't worry, I will cover all the aspects in part two as well. So you don't need to sweat a bit. So let's get started. Before anything, let me introduce myself. I am Sagar Upredi, and I'm an MLS coach from Nepal. I'm also the founder of KU Hackfest, which is like a national hackathon here in Nepal. I'm also GitHub campus expert, and I love pizzas. So yeah, if you know any cool pizza recipes, do share that with me. I also love traveling and wandering around nature, and I am practicing cloud and DevOps. Yep. So if you want to check out my GitHub for some of the projects, yep, I'm up for it. And if you want to connect with me, or have some chat, anything, and these are my social handles. I'm mostly active on Twitter and LinkedIn. Cool. So what we'll be doing today? So we will have we are on a mission actually. So we will help Zone discover new music. So Zone is a very you know very eager music fan, and he wants to discover new music based on his current taste. So he will be providing us some of his current music that he likes and some of the artists that he loves, and based on that we will be helping him discover some new music. Cool. So that is our mission, and we'll be doing all of this with the help of an API. So I will discuss all about it in a bit more detail a bit later. So yeah, so the agendas for today, we'll be talking about 5 different things. So we'll be making API requests with authentications and authorizations. So in the earlier part, we just made a call to open API, right? To an open API, which was like free to use, and it did not require any sort of authentication or verification, right? So anyone could call it and anyone could add data to the server, anyone could retrieve data and make all those things. But now we are dealing with some real world APIs, so we will be needing some sort of authentication. We'll be also talking about OAuth and what is it, and we will be calling the Spotify Web API to build this project, and we will be chaining multiple API calls. So will be, there will be multiple requests, and we will be chaining that so that the response of one of the requests will be the input for the next request. So in that way, we'll be chaining the API calls, and we'll be building a workflow to complete our mission. Cool. And then we'll be visualizing the response that we get from the Spotify web API to, help John get the list of songs that we recommend him to, listen. So we'll be visualizing the response in a neat HTML page so that he can get the response in a pretty understandable manner. So yeah, so that these are the things that we will be covering today. And surprise, surprise, folks, this is the reminder and the information for folks who did not join earlier. So there is an exclusive swag pack giveaway. Uh, Great to see you, Bikras. Cool. I like, yeah, awesome to see you there in part one as well, and glad to see you here. So there is an exclusive swag pack giveaway. So in order to be eligible for this, you need to just watch the three of the streams of this track. If you have not already, like this is the second part, and there will be one for tomorrow, and I'll be showcasing the steps on how you can win this a little bit later. Cool. The prerequisite, of course, for to follow along in this session is that you need to have a Postman account. So if you don't have a Postman account yet, just make sure that you sign up for a Postman account. It's pretty easy and simple, and you just need your email and password, or you can use the Google sign-in method. You can also follow the tutorial and this stream in a Postman desktop app for your Mac or Windows, or even for Linux. But that is completely optional because we'll be doing the entire thing from the browser itself. Cool. And all the resources for this stream will be available on this particular link, and I'll be sharing this link once again in the chat or comment so that you don't miss out. I recommend you to bookmark this link because it contains all the other links and the resources as well as the instruction for the swag pack giveaway. So make sure that you bookmark or save this link because it has all the instructions. Okay, so without further ado, I guess we should dive into action. So let me pull my other screen. Mm, awesome. Just give me a second. Mhm. So here we go. Uh, Before I do anything else, let me show you all the tracker that I mentioned earlier. Hey Parisnav, hi, nice to see you here as well. So this is the tracker that I am talking about, and we completed all the things from the part one that happened earlier today, and currently we are in the part two. So the first thing that you need to do is to go to the check-in link and make sure that you are checked into the event. So let me do that as well and see if I have not already. Yeah, so I'll just click on register, right? And now I can check in, right? Cool. So I can check. You make sure that you are registered and checked into the event. For some reason, it's not showing check-in option form in my screen, but hopefully that is not the same for you. Make sure that you are registered though. Cool. And all the resources once again are listed here as well. And yeah, that is all you need to know for now. And for the swag pack context, just you need to do two things. One, you can share the learnings from this track, whatever you have learned, any concept or any of the cool stuff that you have learned from this track, and mention MLH and myself on Twitter with hashtag GSW, and just tweet it by this deadline. Or what also you can do is that I have created a public thread on the API week channel in the MLS Discord server. So just share whatever work you have done, right? It could be a workspace or a collection link. Make sure that is public though, or just a short message of what you have learned would also work, right? So just share your message in the Discord server as well. So yeah, so these are the two ways that you can win the swag, and we will be picking up a random winner tomorrow in the part three of this series. So towards the end of the part three, we'll be doing the winner selection. Cool. So let's get started. So let me pull my whiteboard over here to talk a bit more about authentication and APIs and all those things, right? Awesome. Cool. So just a second. Cool. So in the first part, uh, we learned about what APIs are, right? And we learned about there are two types of APIs. One is the internal APIs, and there are also the external APIs, right? So internal APIs are something for your own system. So this is for own system, and this is if you want to access and connect with the services of other system. Let's say you want to log in with Twitter in your application, or you want to get some weather data from some third party weather service provider, right? Or you want to like the one we are doing, you want to get some recommendations of songs from Spotify web API. So these are like your app uh, app interacts with some uh, third party, right? So third party service. So this is where you use the external API. And most of the time what you do is that you will need some sort of authentications, right? And you need some auth service in order to access this third party, because they don't allow you to directly connect to their APIs, because they will need to know who are you, who is trying to connect to their APIs, and what are the permissions that you have, right? So these are the things that is necessary while when dealing with APIs. So the first thing that I want you all to know is the difference between authentication, right? Cool. Just a second. Difference between authentication versus authorizations, right? So can anyone in the chat tell me the difference between authentication and authorizations? I would love to know that if you already have an idea, or even just give it a shot. I would love to know that. Cool. I am waiting for you, folks. Just try to think of what could be the difference between authentication and authorization. I would love to hear from you all. Mhm. Anyone, folks? Or even if you don't know, that is totally fine, because like that's why I am doing this session today, right? To let you all know about the differences. Cool. So authentication is basically um, telling the API that you are the one, giving your personal identity and saying that you are the one who is trying to access their API. It's like identification, right? So authentication can be, related to identification, because you are telling the API that, hey, I am this person. Here is my username and password or some other credentials, and that is how I'm going to prove my identity. So this is like your ID card, right? So this is like your ID card when you go to school. Yep, yep. Now you are absolutely correct. So authentication means that you are proving that you are the original one, like you are who you are trying to say. Mm. To the API, right? So ID card to the school is one of the like basic example that I can think of on top of my mind. And authorization is related to, once you prove the API that you are who you are trying to say, you proved your identity and it is validated. Now, what are the permissions that you have, right? So this is related to the permissions. So authorization is related to permissions. So what are the privileges, right? What are the privileges that you have to do with that API? So if you have an access to, let's say, a Twitter API, you won't be able to change the source code, right? Or do whatever you want, right? You will only have access to a certain level of scope. Let's say you want, it will give you the access to log into the Twitter account. It will your app can maybe take some of the tweet post, or the photo from your Twitter profile, or their name, username, right? So those are the things that is related with authorizations. Once you have your identity proven through authentication, authorization will allow you to know the permissions, of what you have in the API server. Yeah, so that is related with granting permissions. Yeah, absolutely, Rasmi. That is a fair point. Yeah, username, password, and other challenges can be definitely used for authentications. Awesome. Now, after we know about what is uh, authentication and authorization, let's try to see, what are the different type of auth in APIs, right? So we call authorization and authentication commonly as auth, right? So it is a single word, and different types, right? There are different types of auth. So one is the basic auth, which all of you might be familiar. So this is the basic auth. The next one, we have the API keys, which some of you, if you have worked with any of the um, third-party libraries. You might be familiar with that. And the final one is the OAuth, right? So these are the most common type of auth, right? So basic auth is related with, the username and password. That is the most common. So whenever you want to access certain API, you just give your username. Just a second. Okay, cool. So username and password, right? So this is the most common one, and we use different HTTP or HTTPS method, right? Awesome. And API key is used when you don't want to give your username and password to some other application, right? So let's say you are trying to use a to-do application, right? And the to-do application is asking you to connect to your Google Calendar, right? So you don't want to enter your Google account username and password into that application, because that we trust the application, but even then there might be cases when the username and password might be breached, or they can make some security, it can bring some security threats in your application. So what we can use is that instead of dealing with username and password directly, we can use the API keys. So these are like alphanumeric keys that API service provider provides to you, alphanumeric keys. So it will be a long string. Example could be 100 A C D something something something. So it will be a long alphanumeric keys, and you can use this key to authenticate into your API. So this is the second type of API, and the final one that, and also the one that we will be using today, is the OAuth, right? So in this type of authentication, you don't provide the username and password, neither you provide the alphanumeric keys or you use the API key. you know you use a concept of token. Just a second. Escalator, this is my first time using this whiteboard, so it's a bit messier. uh, Cool. So you use something called tokens, right? So you will make use of tokens, and I will explain all of this in a bit. So here you don't need to provide your username and password, and you don't need to interact with APIs. And one of the most common example, when I talk about OAuth, is the use of Google sign-in. So whenever you want to log into any of the application, you normally use Google sign-in, right? And what you are in behind the scenes, what is happening is that when you authorize that application to use your Google account, it is generating a token for that application, which acts as a secret credential for that particular app, and it can make request on your behalf. So that is safe as well, because you can revoke these tokens, or expire them if you think that it is being breached or it is being misused. So you can expire them, you can regenerate them. So that is why it is one of the most modern way of communication. Uh, yep, Venkat has mentioned something about JWT tokens. Yep, it is kind of token where you send a payload request. Cool. So that is a different kind of token, and the OAuth also make use of JWT token inside of it, but we don't need to worry about it. And how does JWT token works? We don't need to worry about that. We will just use the OAuth concept to understand this workflow. Venkat, if you have not checked into the stream, make sure that you do that. I'll be okay. Just let me put the check-in link again. Cool. So this is the check-in link for the part 2. So if you have not already, make sure that you are checked in. Awesome. So these are the types of auth. And now I guess let me pull my slide once again. Just a second. Just give me a moment. I lost my slide actually. Let me bring that live. Okay, here we go. Here we go. Cool. Let me put this in full screen mode. Cool. So we were at here. So as I said, OAuth, is an authorization framework, and it requests authorization from a user, to give access to certain services without you needing to give the credentials like the username and password. And it make use of something called access tokens, right? And as I already said, you can, define the scope of what are the level of service that you want to provide, right? So let's say your scope defines that only you can only access the profile name and the profile picture from your Google account, right? So that is one of the scope. Or you can also tell that you can also access my contact information, or you can say that this application can read my email as well, right? So I am sure that you have interacted with different sort of applications, right? And they require different permissions, right? So it the permissions defines the scopes. I hope you get that. And whenever you interact with any of these APIs which implement OAuth, there is something called the OAuth dance that I would like to call. And there are different type of OAuth dance, and depending on what are the code grant type that you use. So we'll be talking about what are the OAuth code grant type in the next slide. But this is the one. This is the flow of OAuth dance in something called authorization code grant type, right? So I'll be talking about this in the next slide. But let's try to see what is happening in this dance. So client, which is like say an application. Let's for this case, let's assume that it is a to-do application or to-do application and an address book as well, which can store your address, contact addresses. So that is the app which is made by some developer. Let's assume that it is made by a third-party developer, not by you. And there are these other parties, like you can see one is the resource owner, that will be you. So if you are interacting with this address book, so that will be the application or a client, and you are the resource owner, right? So you are the resource owner, and if you are to trying to get the Google contacts, then the Google will be your authorization server as well as the resource provider, right? So these are the four parties involved here. And in the first step, what happens is that the client or the address book application or the to-do application will make an authorization request to the user. It will ask to the user, hey, I want to access your Google contact. Am I allowed to do so? And we normally when we interact with the application, we just click on yes, right? So make sure that when you do that, you read all the permission that is asking, right? So that we don't mistakenly allow the application to access a larger scope of permission. So once you allow the application to get access to your Google contact, it will get a authorization code, grant code, with a response of okay, right? So hey, yeah, the application is now allowed to access your um, access your access your contacts. It will eventually create a client secret, right? So and in the third step, what happens is that this authorization grant code will be sent by the client application, which is the address book, to the Google authorization server. So it will say that, hey Google, I have this authorization grant code from this user. Can I please get an access token in order to do different sort of things with his Google account, because I needed to get his Google contacts. So it will ask to the Google authorization server, and Google authorization server will check if that authorization code grant code is valid, and if it's valid, then it will provide the access token back to the address book application, right? So it will say, hey, here you go, this is the access token that you need. And once the client or the application, here in this case a to-do or address book application, has the access token, it can do whatever uh, it wants within that scope, right? Scope is very essential here, because it can't do everything, but whatever is in that scope, now it can access that without the need of you providing your Google account username or password or some sort of API keys, right? So with the help of access token, whenever it makes the next request, so in this example it wants to get the user contact information, so it will ask Google contact server, hey, I have the access token of this user, can you please give me your user contact information, this user contact information? And then Google resource server will again validate that access token if it's a valid one, and then eventually it will, if it's valid, then it will return uh, all the user contacts, right? And then the application can save it in their own database, right? So it will send the protected resource back to the client application. Yeah, so this is how the OAuth dance happens. Like there are different answers and different activities, right? So this is just called an OAuth dance to make it fun. So normally this is the process that goes behind the scenes. uh, I'm not sure if I understand your question, cutie pie. Yep. Oh, that was a joke. Cool. Awesome. Okay, cool. I hope you all are, can someone in the chat confirm that if they have understood the concept of OAuth dance? Because after this, like we'll be going into the demo part where we'll be actually using this OAuth and Spotify Web API. Yeah, any of thumbs up or anything that I can get from the viewers, or if you have even any doubts, then I would absolutely love to tell you the things, explain it in more detail. Cool, cool, awesome. I guess that means that you all are clear. And now we will talk about the different OAuth grant types, right? So I mentioned something about the authorization code grant type, right? So this dance or the process involved in this figure is for the authorization code grant type. And there are like other grant types as well, like you can see authorization code with Pixie, password, client credentials, and implicit. So these are the other grant types. And how do you know which OAuth grant types you should use, right? So it depends on the use case. So let's say if you have a full stack application with your backend server and the front end, which could be your web app or a mobile app, then you normally use the authorization code grant type, which was showcased earlier, right? Because what eventually you receive, right, in second step we received some authorization grant code, right? So it is a client secret, and you can safely store it in the backend server. So that is why you use the authorization code grant type for the application with just front end, let's say a mobile application or a web application with no backend. Then you should go for the authorization code with Pixie, because there you can't hide the client secret in backend, right? In the front end, right? So this is more safe in that aspect. And password, this is the like the old way of dealing with OAuth password, but this is only applicable for the first party app. So let's say you have two systems and you own both the systems, so you're not interactive with any of the third party application like Twitter or other services, or you are talking from one system to another within the same internal system. So that case you can just use a password, right? And there is also something called client credentials. So if you have like two server communicating with each other without the involvement of a user or a client, so in this case there is no client, right? So there are just two backend server interacting with each other. In that case, you should use the client credential. And in the implicit or the like, that is the legacy one, which was used before the authorization code with Pixie. Cool. So, sorry for that spoiler. Cool. So now I guess we should go back live into the demo part. Okay, cool. So let me pull my browser. And what I want all of you to do is that go to the workspace link for day one, part two. So day one, part two, we are here, and just open the workspace, which is provided over here, right? Awesome. So once you open the workspace, so this is the Postman dashboard. And if you have followed along in part one, like you will be familiar with more of the interface, but if not, then I will give you a quick overview. So this is the overview of this workspace, where it will give the description, right, of what we are doing in this workspace. You can just close that. And workspace is like an area where you can work for different projects or teams. So currently I'm in the global hack week, which is the public workspace, which I have shared with you all. I also have some private workspace, so this is for the streams and my own personal workspace, right? So you can create workspace over here under your own team name or a project name or anything that you want to give. And inside the workspace there are different sections, right? So the most important one is the collection section. So here we'll create the collections, right? So collections are basically the placeholder for your APIs. So in the part one, we completed all these API requests, right? So we interacted with this library API and we made different sort of requests. So I can all group these requests inside one folder, and I can place it inside a collection. So if I want, I can add some new request over here, right? And it will be created over here, and all of these can be grouped together. So that is what collection is used for. Collection is used to group APIs. So this is the one that we'll be using right now. So this is the second part, and this is the Spotify recommender uh, link, right? So if you go over here, so you can see two different requests. So this is just for the reference for your information, right? So I want you to, I don't want you to get confused with what these things are and get overwhelmed with these request types, right? Because I'll be explaining all of them in detail. I just want you to know that this is the reference where you can, look over whenever you want if you are confused, right? Just so the first step that I want you to do is, fork this specific collection. So go to the part two section. Let me just zoom in a bit. Okay, go to the part two section, and over here in there you'll see the fork button over here, right? So click on fork, and over there just give it a label. I will leave it the default one, and I will select the workspace to be the streams, and then I will click on fork, right? So I will fork the collection now. Awesome. So the fork will be created in my own workspace. So it's like creating a copy of that entire collection in my own workspace. So that I can't, if you are interacting with my public API, you can't edit my own workspace, right? But if you fork it, then you will be able to uh, work on it, get a copy and work on it in your own workspace. Cool. So awesome. So let me drag this down. Okay, cool. So in the part two, open the Spotify recommender, right? So you will be able to see what are the requests that we are going to reuse and what are the all these different things, right? So just open it in your browser, but don't do anything for now. Okay, so now what I want all of you to do is that, so keep this in your workspace. Now we'll create a new workspace where we will actually doing all the things in this stream, right? So sorry. Oh, cool. Hey, meme girl, cool. I guess like there was some issue with some the timing link. So it was, I guess, in the main schedule, it was supposed to be at 5:30 Indian Standard Time. So that is why like it might be not that it might have not shown the second link. I'm sure that you will be able to do that after 5:30. So yeah, thank you for that notice. Yeah, there must have been some error with the schedule timing. So in the part two, so we have now forked this workspace. So let's just do one thing. So let us create a new collection over here. So let us create a new collection and name this Spotify. A Spotify recommender. Cool. So I will name this request at Spotify recommender. Awesome. And I will be, taking a reference of the original collection over here to get idea of what we are doing today. Yep. So that we will do. But for now, what I want to do is that in order to get idea about what are the different sort of web APIs that Spotify provide and everything, we first need to go to the API documentation of Spotify and check everything over there. So that is what we are going to do now. So on the resources page, I have linked the section for the Spotify Web API. So I want all of you to, go to the Spotify Web API section. So go over there. In case uh, you have not got the link of this document, I'll share it in the comment. Cool. So this is the link for the tracker and every resources, right? Oh, so that timing was mistake. I ended a mistake. Sorry for that. Yep. So it should have been 4:30 p.m. Indian Standard Time. Cool. So, yep. So let's go to the Spotify Web API, right? So if you go to the Spotify Web API, I have mentioned the link in the doc. So if you can go over to that doc and get the link. So here is the Spotify Web API link. Okay. So you will be able to see, all the documentation, getting started guide, and what are the things that you can do with this API. It also has some really cool getting started steps, right? Like setting your up your it is mentioned that we need to have a Spotify account and create uh app over there in the Spotify dashboard. And it also has, uh, concepts. If you go to the concept tabs and click on authorization, you will see the details about how you can use the authorization and all those things, right? So yeah, so these are the kind of things. So if you click on authorization, like you can see this diagram, right? So just a second. So this diagram is something similar to the OAuth dance that we saw earlier, right? So yeah, so it has mentioned that there is something called client ID, and you get a client secret response, and you send that to the Spotify View API, and then you eventually get access token, and that access token is used by the application to make further request to the Spotify account service, right? So this is like pretty much similar to the OAuth dance that we saw earlier. Awesome, cool. So this is the authorization code workflow, and in order to identify what we need to do today, let's go ahead and try to see what are the available references. So the thing that we want to do today is to get a list of song recommendations. So let me pull my whiteboard once again, right? So the thing that we want to do or accomplish is to get a list of songs, right? To get a list of songs, and in Spotify it is also called tracks, and based on a user taste, right? So and what are the aspects that will consist the user taste? It will be a song that he listens to, a song, and a artist, right? So the user will provide a song that he listens on Spotify, and the artist, his favorite artist, and a song, or also we can call it as a track, right? So and based on that, we will recommend him some other songs, right? So let's try to see if there is an API for that in Spotify. Okay, cool. So let me go over and see on search. So okay, cool. So you can see like the endpoints or what are the path that we need to send request to. So this is provided over here, and it says that this is to search for album, artist, playlist, tracks, right? So we can search for item or a song, and says that a query is required. So that could be album, artist, and everything, and it also requires a type of the song that we need. Okay, that is something I guess we will need to know. Okay, cool. I guess this is the first step that we can search for a song, but this only search for one song, right? So will be it does not provide me a list of songs. So this I guess will not work. So let's see what are the other things that we have. Let's see in the tracks part what are the things that we have. Okay, cool. So I think uh, get recommendations. So if you go to this docs and see what it is telling, you can see that recommendations are generated based on the available information of a seed entity, right? Cool. So I think this is something that we need because in this endpoint, let's see what are the required parameters. So just a second. So if you see that it requires these three parameters or the queries: seed artist, seed genre, and seed track. So let's see. Uh, okay, so for seed artist, so we will not be knowing the ID of the artist. So that is not something that we want. Genre. Okay, so it is saying that in we can provide these three information in any of the combination, right? So we can either provide seed artist, seed track, or seed genre in any combinations, right? So we will be using the seed track, right? Because that is what the user will provide, and based on that, we will get the recommendation. So in order to use this endpoint, we will need the track ID, right? A comma separated value of Spotify ID for a seed track. So first we will need the ID of a track. Cool. So in the search path or search for item, uh, let's see like what do we get in response, right? So these are the request parameters. In the response, let's see if we have the ID of a track. So if you click inside the track object that we get as a response in the items object, let's see if it is there actually. Yeah, you can see that we do have ID, right? So we do get the uh, ID of the particular track. Cool. Yep. I will definitely share the slides after the stream, so you don't need to worry about it. That should not be a worry. Awesome. So okay, so what I got to know from this documentation is that so we can use the search API to search for a particular song, right? So let's say I typed in the song name in the query parameter, and I will just give it a type as a track, right? So track is equivalent to song in Spotify. So we will also give it a track. Let me just zoom in a bit. uh, we, so we'll give these two parameters, a query of whatever song the user is typing, and the type. The type will be the track, right? And based on that, it will give me the result, right, of the Spotify song with all the IDs and everything. So from there, what we will do is that from the response, we will extract the ID of the track, the song ID, and then we'll use a recommendation API and then we'll use the recommendation API, and we will provide the track ID that we got from the earlier response in the seed track query, right? So this is like a query or a track that it will use to generate similar other sounds. So we'll send that ID to this query parameter, and then it will eventually return the recommendation. So let's just try it out, because like documentations can be overwhelming solvent, so it's better to just get started with it. And in order to get started with it, we will need a Spotify account. So if you don't have one, it's very easy. Just sign up for a Spotify account, or you can directly sign up from the developers portal as well. So go to the docs that I have sent earlier. Let me just also paste over here. So go to the developer portal. Let me go over there. Right, awesome. And then let me log in. So if you are not logged in, make sure that you are logged in. And if you don't have an account, you can sign up for Spotify over here, but I do already have, so I'm just gonna log in with my username and password. You can even use continue with Google, to ease up the process. And this is actually a real world example of the external API that we talked earlier, right? So we talked like how Spotify is using Google API to authenticate us, right? So this is also a perfect example of OAuth, and we are seeing that in practice as well. So for now, like if you don't have a Spotify account, just sign up for one. It's very easy, like it only takes around a minute, or you can use your Google account. I have the username and password, and I will just log in. So once you log in over here, you should be greeted in the developer portal. Uh, just a second. Is there some issue? Okay, no. Cool. That, I guess there was some issue. So once you're logged in the developer portal, so make sure that you are logged in the developer portal. Here is the link once again. Go to the link, sign up for a Spotify account if you don't have, and then log in. So once you log in, just click on the dashboard. Hover over your name and just click on the dashboard, right? Cool. So you will see an area where you can create an application, right? So whenever you want to use the Spotify API, or to be honest, if you want to use any sort of other standard APIs, you will need to create an app or a project for it, right? So this is like a normal walkthrough that you can expect in other applications as well. So we'll create an app. Just give it some name, say recommender GSW. I have given it a name as a song recommender uh, for GSW. Okay, so this is my name, and this is like recommendation API use case for GSW stream. And for now, like since you don't have a website, you can just leave it blank. We will need to provide this redirect URI, and I will tell what this is in a second. For now, just uh, you can just ignore this for now and just type in a random URL. Okay. I have typed in localhost.com, right? Cool. That does not matter. It should be, you can type in any redirect URL. We will fix this later because this is not a valid URI. So we will use this. We will fix this in a bit later when I showcase that in Postman. So just create your, the application, and it gives you a nice dashboard, where you can see the graph of all your active users, what and different metrics about your API request. So how many times user have requested for your API and where are the users from. It gives this nice visualization dashboard. Okay, awesome. Cool. So now what we can do is that we have created our application, and in the settings tab, go to the settings part. I will show it once again. So go to the settings part after you have created the application, and here you will be able to see the client ID and the client secret. So if you click on view client secret, you will be able to see this. I'll be deleting this app after the stream, so that it won't be exposed. But make sure that you hide this client ID and secret from anyone else, because people can misuse it if they get access to it, right? And we need to keep it secure. So can anyone tell me, like, if they have followed along till here? I would be more than happy to help you out if you are facing any problem. I am looking for the chats and see if there are any issues or problems. Let me know if you have completed till here. So what we did is that we just went to the developer platform and signed up for a Spotify account. And then in the dashboard part, we created an app with some basic information. For the redirect URI, we just gave it a um, random URI for now, but we will change it later. And then if you go to the settings tab in your application, you will be able to access your client ID and client secret. Awesome. So this is what we have done till now. Awesome. Cool. Uh-huh. Yep. Cool, cool. So let us go back to the Spotify Postman, right? And here we will click on add a new request, right? So you can go over here and click on add request, and we'll be sending a new request to the Spotify web API. So let's go over there. And first we need to search for a item or search for the song, right? So that we get the song ID or the track ID, right? So we'll be doing that first. So here you can see the endpoint for it, right? So just copy and paste, right? So I'll just copy this endpoint, and then I'll be going to Postman and pasting the URL over here. Cool. So this is the search API, and let us try to see what happened when I click on send request, right? Yeah, you say that you receive a 401 on authorized response, right? Saying that no token was provided. And yeah, because we have not provided any tokens in Postman, right? So we just got the our credentials over here in Postman in the Spotify dashboard, but we have not provided it in the request. So that's why it failed. So now what we need to do is that set up the authentication, right? So you can do two things. You can set up the authentication in the request level as well. So this is where you will set up the authentication, and we have like different sort of authentication types, right? So we'll be using the OAuth 2.0. So OAuth that we discussed earlier and the OAuth dance that we saw, it's from the OAuth 2.0 version. It's the latest and the new version. So earlier there was the OAuth 1.0 version, which used different sort of signatures, but we'll be using the OAuth 2.0. So you can set it from here, or since I will be using another request as well later on, to get the recommendation. So that will be another request. So instead of setting up authentication in each of the requests, I will just set it up at the collection level. So go to the collection name, so Spotify recommender or whatever collection name you have, right? And in the authentication type, make sure that it is OAuth 2. So I'll click on OAuth 2. Awesome. So I'll click on OAuth 2, and then we will set up different details over here. So in the OAuth, if you scroll down a bit, you can see that there is section to, add a different sort of thing, right? So the first thing that we can do is to, select the client ID. So let me just copy and paste the client ID and secret. So I'll copy the client ID from here and paste it over here. Same goes for the client secret. I'll copy the client secret and paste it in the authorization tab, right? In the collection label and not in the request label, because once we set up in the collection label, it will be available to all the requests inside that collection. Awesome. So the next thing that we need to do is to provide it a callback URL, and this is the callback URL that we need to set up in Spotify, right? So we I earlier mentioned about, we'll set up a callback URL or a redirect URL later on, right? So this is the URL that we need to set. So I'll remove the localhost one and just copy the callback URL from Postman, because like we are not using any web server of our own. We are sending the request from Postman. So I'll just copy the callback URL of Postman and paste it over here, and then click on add, right? So now I will save it. And now we also need to add an auth URL, right? So yeah, let's try to see what this is. So let's go to the Spotify concepts and go to the authorization tab. And if I see over here, there should be somewhere about the uh, authorization code, URL. So auth URL. Uh, hmm, hmm, just a second. Getting started. Let's go to the getting started part. Uh, hmm, 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 hmm. Let us see. We need to provide it an auth URL. Awesome. Let me quickly, you know, pull up the reference over here. Just give me a moment. let us see, let us see the reference in our Postman. So let's get an idea of what this could be. So if I go to the part two of my collection, you can in the variable, uh, yeah. So okay, cool. In the authorization part, uh, okay. So this is the auth URL that we need to provide, right? So let's just copy this around. So this will be the auth URL as well as the access token API URL. So in my own Spotify recommender part, I will just paste the auth URL as well as the Spotify access token URL. Cool. And we'll also name this token, give it a name as Spotify token. Cool. And the grant type that we'll be using is the authorization code, right? So in Spotify, you saw that we can use different sort of uh, grant type, right? We also discussed this in the slides earlier. So we'll be using the authorization code grant type. Yeah. So this is the one that we will be using. Awesome. And now, okay, cool, cool, cool. Awesome. So now we have set up the token name. We have set up the grant type as well as the we pasted this copy and pasted this callback URL in the Spotify app. Yeah, right here, and then we saved it as well. We set up the Spotify auth URL. I will also paste this in the chat, right? So this is the auth URL as well as the access token URL. And let me also, mention this in the docs. So Spotify web API. This is Spotify auth URL. So yeah, this is the URL that you might want to use. Cool. So I have pasted it in the chat as well. So after that, I have provided the client ID and client secret from Spotify, and there is nothing mentioned about scope in the authentication getting started part. So I guess that is not um, required over here because like there is no mention of scope over here, right? Cool. Awesome. After that, now let's try to just click on try to get the access token, right? So click on get new access token over here, right? And now it has popped, this dashboard has been popped up, and I have been logged in at Sagar. So if you have not logged in, make sure that you are logged in, and I click on agree. But before that, like it is showing you all the information that this app wants to. It's asking that Spotify, this app wants to take your name and username, your profile picture, how many followers you have, Spotify, and your public playlist, right? So yeah, I'm fine with all of those. I will click on agree. And okay, for some reason this is failed. Let's see what is the reason. So let's see the console. Okay, could not complete OAuth2 request. Let's try to debug like what is the error over here. Okay, let me see that again. Mhm. So we have named it is authorization code. I'm pretty much sure like this has been set up in application as well. Yep. And we have copied and pasted the client ID and client secret. Sent as basic header. I guess everything should be working. Let's try to see what is the error over here, right? Mhm, mhm, mhm. Okay, okay. So yep, I found the error. So the auth URL is this one. I guess we have messed up uh, the access token URL. Cool. So let me go to the reference, right? So let me go to so this is like forked from the public workspace, right? That I said earlier. So let us go over there and check if it is the same, right? So yeah, so this was the error because we set up auth URL and access token URL the same, but it's actually different. So this is the access token URL, and that is why there was an error. So if I go to my own, uh, yeah, and I change the access token URL, now it should work, right? So let me also, Spotify, what was this named? Access token URL, access token URL. So this is the access token URL. Awesome. Cool. So we have done till here. I will also paste this in the comments so that you folks can follow along. So this is the access token URL. Awesome. So this is the access token URL, and the earlier one was the auth token URL. So we have pasted the access token URL as well as the auth URL. And now let us try to get the token again. Okay, yeah, now it is success, right? So we found out the issue, and here you can see, the details of all the tokens you have. The token name, the access token is over here, the token type, and it says it expires in 3600 seconds. So that's like an hour, and yeah, you get all these details over here. So we have the token, and we can say that we can say it to use the Spotify token for all the requests in this collection, right? And it will give you the time it expires as well. Cool. So now we have the token over here, and now let us try to send the request. And that was the most complex part as well, right? So let me just quickly recap for folks who have just joined in, or folks who are like getting a bit confused, or this might be a bit overwhelming in the front, but trust me, it is not. Okay, I will explain how to generate access token. Let me recap everything that we have done till now, right? So what we did is that I'll go from the very beginning. So this is the workspace link that I have provided to every one of you. So in this workspace, we have two different collections for the part one and part two of this track that we are doing. So in the part two track, there is all the request and collections for that we need for this part two. So what I asked you all to do is to fork all the collection, right? So I asked you to fork this collection so that you get the copy of this collection um, in your own account or in your own workspace, right? So I have forked this in my workspace named streamed, right? So if I go to streams now, like I'll be able to see this collection, right? So this is the one that I forked, right? And what I did is that this will serve as a reference for me to go along with this, follow along with this demo. So this is the completed version. So what I did was I created a new collection named Spotify Recommender, and I created a new request, and I just copy and pasted the. I will just do that. I will just copy and paste the API endpoint for the Spotify. So what we are going to do is that we will be sending two requests to Spotify Web API. The first one will be the search API. So this will help us to search for a specific song. So we'll be searching for a song, and it will give us the song ID in return. So we'll need the song ID or the track ID. So this is the endpoint. So if I go over here, and I'll just paste it over here for now. And what we'll do is that after we get the song ID or the track ID of this song, we will go to the uh, get recommendations API or the end path. And what we'll do is that we will provide the track ID that we got from the earlier response, right? So we searched for a song and we got the track ID. So we'll use that track ID in order to as a query parameter for this path, and as a result, we'll get a list of song, uh, and that is our goal, right? Cool. So what we are going to do now is that we need to access the Spotify Web API. So we'll first sign up for the Spotify developer account. So go to this link, developer.spotify.com, and then we just signed up for an account. So log in and sign up if you have not already. And we went to the dashboard, right? And we created an app if you have not already. So if you don't have not created, just create an app, right? And in order to do that, just type in an app name. You don't need to provide a website. And for redirect URI, what we did was we went to the collection that we are trying to get the OAuth access. And in the OAuth path, right? In the OAuth path, we will selected the OAuth 2.0 type, and from here if you scroll down, you will get the auth URL, right? Or the callback URL. So this will be the redirect URL. So we just copy and pasted this URL in the dashboard and then created the app, right? Cool. I'll cancel this for now because I already have created an app. And then if you go to the settings, you will be able to see the client ID and client secret, right? So view on client ID and client secret. So what we did was uh, we just a second, right? Awesome. Mhm. Oh, sorry. I think I missed to hit save earlier. So that might have don't save. So that might be a good point for you to follow along again. So let me just quickly do that. So in the uh, Spotify recommender, what we will do is that we will select the type as OAuth 2.0, and then we will give the name as a Spotify token. I already have got that. And if you have not, then what you can do is that type in a token name, select the grant type as OAuth grant type in the callback URL, copy this and make sure that it is it is the redirect URL in your application. And after that, for the auth URL, it is mentioned in the docs. So if you go over the docs, we have the auth URL. And yep, so there was some error with the scheduling on the MLS website. So I'm really sorry for that. So we just started a bit earlier. That is because of some of the scheduling and timing issues. I'm really sorry for that. I hope that you will be able to follow along, because like we are just like towards the middle, and this resource will guide you to follow along in every step. I'm just summarizing what we have done till now so that you don't feel left out. So yeah, real sorry for that. So yeah, I was just summarizing what we are doing till now. So we here are the Spotify web API and the auth URL. So we will just use this and paste it over here. And then for the client ID, we'll copy it from the uh, Spotify developer account, and same goes for the client secret. And then after you do all of that, just click on generate a new access token. And after that, you will be prompted with a dialog box where you need to authorize the Spotify account, and then it will generate an access token for you. And after that, it will be available to use in your collection. So if you go to the current token and under the collection token tab, you will be able to select the token over here. And once you do that, you will be able to access all the requests. Consequent API request can use this OAuth token to access. I hope that makes things clear. No, Daniel, you are not so late. This is because of the scheduling issues from the portal itself. So sorry for that. I hope that you all be able to follow along. Hey Siddharth, hello, how are you? Great to see you back again. So sorry that like there was some timing issues and we started a bit earlier than what's scheduled. But I hope you all will be able to follow along from the resources that I've shared with you all, right? Okay, cool. I will be doing a descriptive recap towards the end as well once I complete this demo, so that you will be able to follow along even without the extensive demo and just from the docs itself. Okay, cool. So just uh, make sure that you follow along, and I will be doing a complete recap towards the end just to make sure that you all follow along. Okay, cool. So for now, just watch me do this stuff and enjoy the stream. Cool. So what we have done till now is that the most important part, I guess, we just received the access token from the Spotify web API, and now we can use that to make the request, right? So this is like the search endpoint for searching for an album, right? So if I go to the, uh, let me go to the Spotify web API. Okay. So if I go over here and go to the search section and search for item, this is the endpoint that we'll use to search for particular song or track. So this, I just copied this endpoint from here and I pasted it on the this new route request, right? So let me just try to click what happens when I click send. Okay, so when I click send, now it no longer says that I am not authorized. It says that there is a no source query, and that is as it should be, because I have not provided any of the parameters, right? So what it should search, or like the ID or anything, right? So that is why it has shown this error. But as we can see that it is not saying that we are not authenticated. The auth token is working, so that is what it means. So the authentication part is done. We have successfully authenticated to the Spotify web API, and now you can use that to do the search. So let us uh, let us rename this host name as a base URL, because this is going to be the same for every other request as well. So I will just set this as a collection variable. So if you have followed in the part one, you will know that this is the collection variable, right? So we can set this as a collection variable. So because this is not going to change in any other request, only the part after this will change. So I'll be doing the same. So over here, I will just click on hover over it. Just a second. Let me go over here. in the collection tab, and in the variable I will set from here instead. So I will give it a name of base URL, and I will give this a value of this without the slash sort, right? So this is the one that is going to be the base URL. Awesome. Uh, that was double pasted. Cool. So this is your base URL, right? And we'll be using this base URL to make all the requests, right? Instead of writing it again and again, we'll just use at the base. And in Postman, you to use the base URL, just type in the URL name in the curly braces. Cool. Let me make sure. Okay, cool. Let me save this. And in the request tab, yeah, now you can see that the URL was set, right? Okay, so if I send again, it should say that the request was success, but like there was no source query. So yep, that was a bad request. Hey folks, those who have just joined now, so we had some scheduling issues on MLS portal. So we started a bit earlier than we should normally, and I'm really sorry for that. I will be recapping everything that we do towards the end so that you don't get miss out. For now, you can just watch me do the things and learn from there. For folks who have joined earlier, that it is I hope that you all are following along as well. Cool. No need to worry about anything at all. So what we did is that we copy and pasted the Spotify search API endpoint, right? So we did that, and now what we did is that we sent a source request and it says no source query, right? So for folks who have just joined now, forget about the authentication part and how we did that, because I will I will recap everything again. Just try to understand what we are trying to do over here. So we are trying to, our ultimate mission is to recommend a list of songs to let me pull that whiteboard again, right? So our ultimate is to recommend a list of songs to a user, right? And based on their user taste. So the user will only provide a song name or a track name and an artist name. So the user will enter these two fields, and based on these two fields, we will recommend him a list of similar songs, right? Using the recommendation API of Spotify. So that is our mission over here, right? And what we are doing right now is that we went through the Spotify API over here, and we found that there is an endpoint called sorts, which will help us to search for a song. But that is not our goal, right? We don't want to search for one song, but we have like get recommendations endpoint as well. So, but this needs a track ID or a song ID. So you can see that it needs a seed track, right? So this is actually the Spotify ID for a seed track. We can call it a track ID. So it needs a track ID in order to recommend a list of songs, right? And how do we get a track ID? And that's why we went for the search endpoint. And if you search for a song with an artist, you will eventually get a response from where you can filter out the track ID. So we will use the response from the search endpoint. We will extract the track ID, and then we will pass it the track ID to the get recommendation path. So that is what we are trying to do over here, right? So let me just create a new endpoint over here to make things clear. So I'll rename this bit. So this is like get song ID, get track ID, I would say, get track ID, and this request will be to get recommendations. This will ultimately, the second request will be the recommendation, because we'll use the track ID from the first request and pass it to the second request in order to get a list of songs. Cool. uh, okay, so your base URL is not generating the response. Okay, cool. So uh, please make sure that your base URL is the same as this one. Like I will paste it in the comments as well. So this is the base URL, right? And make sure that you have set the base URL in the collection label. So click on the collection name. It might be new collection, or if you have renamed it, go to that collection. And under the variables tab, make sure that you have typed in the base URL, right? And you can give it any name, but I have used the name of base URL. And make sure that you paste the URL in both the current as well as the initial value, and make sure it is checked as well. You need to make sure that it is checked. And once you do that, you need to paste the type in the variable name inside double curly braces, and that is how you will get the endpoint, right? And if you want to check if it's successfully done or not, you can just hover over it, and if you see the value over here, you will get the response. And after the base URL, we are on the slash search endpoint, and once I click on send, yeah, it should generate some response, right? No source query because we have not provided any. Now let's provide the query. What are the things that it asks, right? So let's go to the search one. Okay, let me go to the search endpoint and see what are the things that it asks, right? Okay, let me go over here, and it says that we have two required parameters. One is queue, and the other is type, right? So let's do that. So in the queue, okay, cool. So let me go over here. In the one is the queue, right? The query. So let's say I want to search for a track with some value called love, right? And the next will be type. And since this is a song that I want to search, I can give it a value of track, because if you go to the Spotify documentation, you can see that the allowed values are album, artist, playlist, track, so episode, and audiobook. And in order to search for a song, you can um, select the value as a track, right? So type will be track, and uh, the type will be track, and query will be love. So we'll just try to send, right? And if we see if we can get some response. Yeah, now you can see, right? We get a list of tracks, right? It will generate a list of items, right? So I'll just collapse this for now, because like it's a very huge response, but you will eventually, get a list of songs with different, parameters, right? And here you can see the URL for the song and ID for the song, and this is the one that we need, right? So we'll need the song ID because we want to pass it for the next request, which is the get recommendation, and we will need to somehow extract this ID, right? So that is what we want to do. And you have the another album and all those things over, because it's a list of array. Can anyone in the chat, like, just let me know, like, if they have understood what we are trying to do over here now? So can I get a thumbs up, or any queries or doubts that you have till now? Because I would absolutely love to answer if you have any queries. So what we are doing is that we're using the Spotify web API, and we are just passing a query over here. Okay, let me just use the base URL instead of this long one, right? So base URL, cool. Base URL, awesome. If I click on send, I should be getting the same response. Yep, absolutely. So, and we have used two query parameters. The first one is the query that the song that we are trying to search, and the type. So it will be a type. Okay, cool, cool, Rasmi. Anyone else? Like, if you have any doubts, just let me know. Okay. Uh, I'll be doing a recap in the end as well. So we got a track, right? So we got a list of songs, but we don't want all of these. It's very much cluttered, and it's difficult to understand. So what we want is to just to extract the ID, right? So let me collapse this album, artist, and available market. So we just want this ID, and now let us see how we can get this ID, right? So in order to get this ID, we will run a script, right? So sorry, we'll run a script that will extract the ID from the response, right? And in order to do that, we can use the test tab in Postman. So this will allow us to run the script after we get a response from the server. So that is exactly what we want, because we just want to extract the track ID, right? So and that happens after we get a response. So we will do that, right? So if you go to the public workspace and see the reference, so this is the Spotify recommended reference. So we'll go over there and go to the track ID URL. I'll explain what we are trying to do here in a bit more, like, later as well. And if you go to the test tab, you'll see this all these codes, right? So let's just copy and paste this, and I will explain that in a second what we are trying to do over here. Okay, cool. So let us try to understand line by line what we are trying to understand, like what we are trying to do over here. So what we are trying to do over here is that we are first trying to get the entire body of the response, right? So in order to do that in Postman, we can use the PM object dot response, right? So that will give us the response in JSON format. So this response we are getting in the JSON format, right? So we are just getting that response from the Postman and storing it in a variable called body. So this is like the JS Node.js way of doing things, right? So if you are familiar with JavaScript, you will know this. So we are just getting the response from Postman and storing in a variable called body. And after that, what we are trying to do is that we get a list of songs, right? But we just want to get a single track ID, and for that we'll use the track ID of the first result. So we will assume that whatever is the first result, that is the closest match to the song the user is trying to search. And we will just take the first song or the track and extract the ID. So that is why what we are doing is that we are just uh, you know from the body object. So there is the track, the song is named as a track object, right? So we are extracting the track object, and if you see that we have a list of items, right? So we have inside the track, so this is in the body, and inside body we have tracks, and inside tracks we have items, which is a list of array. And from the list of array we just want the first element, and in JavaScript, as you know, the array is indexed by 0, the first element, so we'll be getting the first track. So this is how you get the first track, right? And after we get the first track, we just want to extract the ID, right? So inside the items object, you can see that we have different sort of parameters, but the one we want, the property that we want is the ID, and this is actually the song ID or the track ID that we want. So we are just from whatever the first track that we are getting, we just want the ID over there. So this will actually store the track ID, and we can console log the track ID if we want. And after that, what we are doing over here is that over here we are setting the track ID as the collection variable. So in Postman, what you can do is that the earlier we set a variable over here, right? So we set a variable in over here. Sorry, just a second. Spotify recommender. Mhm. Get track ID. Mhm. Okay. Somehow. Okay. Just a second. Awesome. So we set a variable from the collection label, right? So we went over here and then we set a variable over here, right? So that is how we did things. But what if you want to do that programmatically, right? So after we get the response, we extracted the body, we selected the first item, and we extracted the ID. And then we set this ID to be a collection variable so that we can use it in other request using the collection variable dot set function, and it takes the variable name. This is the variable name. The first parameter is the variable name, and the second parameter is the value. So you we have the value over here in this variable, right? So we'll use the same thing. So this is the value, and this is the name of the variable. So after we send this, now since I have copy and pasted the test link, if I click on send again, right? So if I go to the console over here in the bottom left corner, here is the console. You can see that I get a response, right? And this is exactly the track ID of the first song, and that is exactly what we want, right? We just want the ID of the first song. So if let's see if it is the match, yeah. So this is the same ID as we get over here, 3ZSQ, 3ZSQ. So this is the same ID. So now the first part is done. We got the uh, ID, right? So we got the ID of the first song. In order to refine the search, the search was pretty vague, right? So we just searched for a love, but there might be like thousands and thousands of song with name, with title love in it, right? So we want to just refine our search query a bit. So let's see what are the options that the uh, Spotify API provides, right? So if you see over here, you can see that it has mentioned that you can narrow down your search using field filters. The filters are album, artist, track, year, and all those things, right? So we'll be using uh, the artist and the track filter. Okay, cool. So we will be using these two filters to search. So let's do that. How do we use filters? Awesome. So we will do that. Just a second. For that, what we can do is you go to the reference workspace, and in the get track ID, you can see that we have in the parameters, right? We have track as well as art. It is set as a variable over here, but we will do the same thing. Okay, cool. So awesome. So what we can do is that we can provide it a track and artist, right? So let's do the thing. So instead of directly writing a value, I will provide it a track, and I will now track will be love, and I can enter space in Postman to separate another value. So that will be artist, and artist will be, let's say, Taylor Swift. Okay. Okay, cool. Taylor Swift. And in Postman, you can also separate the different values by plus. Cool. So this is how we can narrow down the search. And let's see if this works. Yeah, it indeed work. Right now, it is showing me all the songs from Taylor Swift, which has love in it, right? So instead of just typing the value of a song, what we are doing is that we are applying some filters. So we are giving it a filter of track love and also providing it a value of artist, and we can separate that by plus. Is everything clear up till until now? Because like we are pretty much very close towards the second request. And since we have also run the test, after we get the response, we have extracted the first track from the list of items, and then we have extracted the ID of it, and then set it as a collection variable. So if you go to the collections over here and see on variable, it should have been set here. Yeah, you can see that the track ID has been set here, right? Cool. And now it can be used in any other request as well. Let me know if you are facing any problems or have any doubts. I would be more than happy to clear that out. Cool. So guess you all are clear till now. Awesome. So now we have got the track ID. Okay, so let's go over to the get recommendation path now and try to see how this works. So the base URL is going to be the same, right? So base URL, and what was the endpoint for recommendation? For that, I'll go to the API, and it was slash recommendations. So I'll just copy the slash part because the base URL is the same. Okay, uh, awesome. So I'll go over here. I will click on slash recommendation and try to just send the request and see what happens now. Yeah, just a second. Service. Oh, sorry, it was double slash. It should be single slash. And it says that it is an invalid request because like we just asked for this path without sending any information of what we it needs different parameters, right? So we need to provide that. Cool. So for now, what we are going to do is that let's see the recommendations path and see what are the things that is required. So it is asking for three different entities: seed artists, seed genres, and seed tracks, right? So these are the three things that it needs. But we, as you can see from the documentation, we can see that up to 5 seed values may be provided in any combination of seed artists, seed tracks, or seed genre. So although like these three are mentioned as required, you can provide either one of them, two of them, or three of them in any order. So since we are going to use the track ID that we got from the first request to get a list of recommendation in the second request, we will be using the seed tracks option, right? So I'll just copy this, and in the recommendations endpoint, I will just go to the key and select the key as seed tracks. And now what we will do is that in the value, so the value should be the track ID, right? And we are not going to type it manually, right? Because we have set it as a collection variable. So it should be in double curly braces. I can write track ID, right? And I'll close this up. So this will be the value will be set from the collection level itself, because after we run the first request, we will get the track ID of the song and it will be set as a collection variable. And now it will be accessible from this query parameters. And from this request, right? So now let us try to see if we actually get the response. Cool. Yep. So we got the list of songs, right? And uh, let me just narrow down I'll collapse the album, artist, and market, and you can see that uh, we get the URL of the song, we get the ID of the song, and all those things, right? So let us just try to click on the URL and if see if this is a song, right? So I will just try to search the other songs. Just a second. Awesome. Oh, okay, cool. Okay, so this was the URL. Sorry, just a second. Open a new tab. Cool, and see if this is actually a song, right? That should be. I don't know why it's taking time to load on my screen, but that will eventually, load up a Spotify account and play the song. Yeah, you can see that this is a song and it has started playing right along, right? Cool. So this is how you can, get the response. But if you see the recommendations, like it is a lot, right? We don't want a list of, it probably has like multiple hundreds of songs, right? We just want to recommend the top three songs. Let's say that that is our use case. So how do we do that, and how do we show the response, right? And the user that is trying to get the list of recommendation would not like to see the JSON response, right? They would not be familiar with JSON response. A better way would be to present them as a clickable links, right? So what we'll be doing is that we will be visualizing this response with some pretty basic HTML and handler.js, and we'll be visualizing this response so that it's easier for user to see it, right? So we'll be doing that. Just a second. So so in the test tab again, what we will be doing is that, so we have the list of recommendations over here, but we just want to visualize it, right? So I will go to the reference workspace once again, right? And in the recommendations, if you go in the tab test section, you have this script over here. I'll just copy and paste over here, and I'll explain this in a second. Don't worry. In the test tab, here we go. Okay, so now let us try to see what we are trying to do here. So we are getting the response, right? So you can see that we are getting a list of tracks or the songs as a response. So we are just accessing that using Postman response.json object function. So it will give us the response body, and we're storing that in a variable called body. After that, since we want only the top three songs, what we are doing is that we are using the array slice method. So if you're familiar with JavaScript, what this does is that this extracts the first three elements or items of an array, right? Okay, so this extracts the first three elements of an array, so that we don't need other items. So, and it stores in this variable called top three recommendations, right? And after that, what we are doing is that we need to analyze the object. So it's track, and then after track, we need to go inside the track object, which is an array, and we need to, what we want is to display the URL of the song, as well as the uh, as well as the uh, you know as well as the name of the song, right? So name and URL is pretty much what we need. So we are doing that now. So we are getting a variable. So what we are trying to do is that, you know the track name from collection variable. Just a second, before we go to over there. Okay, so what we are extracting the value of collection value variable called track. But since, like, if you go to the track ID in the params, we are typing the value of track over here directly itself, right? So a better way to do it, when you are using working with workflows, is to even set this as a track variable. So we'll do that exactly. So I will call this as a track, right? And select a scope as collection level, so that all the requests can access it, and even the artist, right? So I'll do the same over here for artist as well. Mhm. So track, and the value of artist will be artist. Set a new variable of artist. I'll set the scope as collection level, and here we go. Awesome. So we have set the value of track and artist as a collection variable as well. Cool. So if you go to the Spotify recommender now, and in the variable tab, you will be able to see four different variables. The base URL was the endpoint of our API, the track ID that we get as a result of this request, and we set it through a script, post script, right? And then we also provide the track and the artist over here, right? So if you give it any other name, let's say what? Mm, hmm, okay, beautiful. Okay, I will change the value to beautiful, right? Okay, okay, I'll save this. And now if I click on track ID again, this should work, right? Because we have set the value from the collection level, and we get a list of tracks over here as well. Cool. And if you go and click on recommendations, and you will be getting the response over here as well. So now what we are doing is that we are getting the track that we set earlier in this variable, and then we are using the handler.js to define a template of how we want. So this might be familiar to HTML if you have used earlier, right? So I will be explaining this in lightly. So we are using an S3 tag to say that discover new tunes, right, or songs. I would Okay, I'll just change this to songs, discover new songs. And if you like the current track or the value that you have provided, you will probably love. And we have used an unordered list, so that it will be displayed as a list of songs. And this is like a for loop for each of the top three recommendations. So these are like a list of item, right? So there will be three item in this array. So for each item in that array, we are displaying the name, which we are setting over here, right? So we are displaying the name as well as the external URL dot Spotify. So how do we know if it's external URL dot API? Yeah, you can see that in the response object. It's the external URLs dot Spotify is the link of the Spotify song, right? And the name is the name of the song. Cool, right? So that is the name of the song, and we have used the name as well as the external URL API as the variable, and then we have set a play button over there. So that is all we have done. So let us click on send now. Cool. So now we see, if we click on visualize, if you click on visualize, now you can see that here you go. If you see on visualize, like we have, you can see the asterisk tag over here. And if you like beautiful, you will probably love these three songs. And if you click on one of the song, let's say the second one I click, it won't open in the Postman itself. Just click on open in new tab and then it should work. Then you can see that the new song is playing over here. Hey there. I'm getting a question from, you know, that what architecture that we are trying to use. So we are practically using the Spotify Web API. So we are not building a structure. Uh, we are not trying to build our architecture on our own. We are just using a external API to uh, build this application. So yep, please don't spam in the chat because like I would highly recommend that. Please don't spam in the chat, uh, and be respectful with everyone. Cool. I hope you are all getting, and like that completes, almost all the things that we are going to do today. I will do a complete recap, okay, just for you folks who don't, who joined a bit late because of some scheduling issues, and for anyone who are following along, and to make things everything is easier for you. So that, and this way, like this is how we, we use the Spotify song API to first get a track ID based on the query that we provide, and then we use the track ID to get the recommendation, right? And then we can use, you can chain the both the requests together, right? So if you go on the collection level and click on runs, right? What you can do is that, you can click on run collection, and you just select both the options and click on run spot. Yeah, it ran both the requests, so you don't need to send requests individually. So Postman did it for you, like both the requests were sent. And if you go on get recommendation tab, you'll see the response over here. And if you just click on send, you will see the new response. So every time you click on the send button, you will be getting a new list of songs, right? So this is how you can uh, uh, get a new songs. Yeah. So visualizing not occurring. Cool. So can you tell me like what are the errors that you are getting? So you can hover to the console, right? And you can hover to the console and see if there are any errors. So I would recommend you to, for the visualization part, go to the recommendations endpoint, go to the tab section, right? And just copy and paste whatever is in the reference workspace, right? Copy and paste whatever is there, but make sure to, uh, make sure to, name your collection variable as track, because that is important. So let's say if you have mentioned this variable as track, you need to mention it here as well. And if you have set this variable as something other than track, then it should match this. Then you will run. I guess we have some. Okay, cool. Cool. So, okay, now so can anyone tell me if anyone have like got until here or understood, at least understood what we are trying to do over here and what have we done? And then I will do a recap. If you have any queries or like questions, I would be more than happy to answer, or just wanting to know if you have understood. Cool, meme girl. That is awesome. Like awesome, awesome to see that you are following alone and completed the tasks. Yeah, Siddharth, and yeah, I can absolutely understand that. And sorry from our side as well because of some scheduling issues. Uh, I will do a recap as well. Okay, so don't worry. So you have the resources talks, right? So I'll once again post it in the chat, right? So that you'll get a you'll get the docs. Okay, cool. So let's recap everything that we have done. Will that be cool? Will that be cool with you all? So I will be doing everything like showcasing you everything from the beginning in a quick manner, right? So that it will help you follow along. Okay, so what have we done in this workspace? I will close all the links for now. Okay, cool. All the links, all the links, all the links, right? I will close all the links. Cool. So we just checked into the event. So make sure that you are checked into the event, right? So uh, awesome, Subhas. Make sure that you just follow along in this recap. Make sure that you are checked into this event if you have not already, uh, right? So let me do that as well. I guess I was not able to check in earlier. So check into the event. Yeah, now I'm checking. Cool. So after we checked in, what we did was, uh, workspace. So we went to the workspace, right? So we went to the workspace, and in the part two for the this series, so we forked this collection. So we just click on fork, and then just type in some details and just fork in our own workspace. So that's like making a copy of this collection in our own workspace. So that was the stream workspace for me. I forked this collection in my streams workspace. And what we did is that we created a new collection over here named Spotify Recommender, right? Uh, just watch over here for your reference, okay? And you can, always, the stream will be recorded and you can watch it from Twitch as well as YouTube later on. So I just want to make sure that you understand what we are trying to do over here, right? So you can just watch me do the things over here. So we created a collection named Spotify Recommender, and we created a new request, right? And we created a new request to the Spotify Web API. So we look over the documentation of Spotify Web API, right? And our ultimate aim was to get a list of songs based on the user's current taste, and that was the user will only provide the song that they like and the artist that they like, and based on that we will generate a list of recommendation. And for that, we have endpoint called recommendations, right? So we have this endpoint called recommendation, but since it needs the seed tracks, right? So it needs either seed tracks, seed genre, or artist. We went with the track option because that will be easier. Uh, so it needs the seed track, and in order to get the seed track, we utilize the search endpoint. So we went over for the search endpoint, and we provided it with a query and type. So type was track. So that is all what we did over here. So the base URL was the endpoint of Spotify, and we used two of the query parameters. The first one was the track, the value, and we sent it as a track, and then we sent the request. But you will see that there will be some errors over here, right? You will probably get some errors over here because you will not be authenticated, right? Uh, you'll need to authenticate, and for that, what we did that we went to the collection level, and then what we did was we went to the authorization tab, and we selected the OAuth 2.0 method. We gave it a name, and then after that we just filled in all these values, right? And where do you get all these values? You will get this value from the Spotify dashboard. So in the Spotify developer portal, go to your account, right? So go to the account, create an app if you have not already, right? And once you create an account, an app, go to the settings, and you will get the client ID, right? And as well as the client secret over here. So just copy and paste those client ID and client secret over here, and you'll see something called callback URL over here. So you will need to copy this URL from Postman and paste it over here, right? In the redirect URL, make sure that you paste this URL over there. And after that, what you need to do is that select the grant type as authorization code, click on get new access token. It will take you to the Spotify portal. You need to provide access, okay, and then you will get the access token, right? And once you get the token, it will be displayed over here, and you can select the token from here. Okay, after that, you will be getting this response, right? So this is like a list of track, which is closest to our search query. So we are just use running some post response script. So what this is doing is that, so this is like a list of hundreds of songs, right? So we just want the first song, like the closest match. So we are extracting the body from the response, and we are just selecting the first item from the array, and then extracting the ID over there, right? And after we extract the ID, we are setting the track ID as the collection variable, because we want to use this track ID in the second request, right? So that is why uh, the earlier we set the collection variable from UI, so going to the variable tab, but here what we are doing is that we are setting the collection variable from the script itself, right? So we are setting the variable name is track ID, and the value is set from here, right? Cool. So that is how we are doing, and once we do this, send this request, uh, it will set the track ID, right? And you can check that by going over to the variables tab, and you can see that the track ID was set over here, right? The track ID is set over here. And the next thing that we did was, uh, next thing that we can do is to go to the recommendation tab, right? And in the recommendation tab, you can copy and paste the recommendation endpoint. So let me go back once again. Yeah, so this was the endpoint, right, for recommendation tracks and then get recommendations. So this was the endpoint. You can copy and paste it over here. So this is basically the base URL, so you don't need to type it again. Base URL. And once you do this, if you click on send, it will probably fail because we have not passed in the parameter. So we need to pass parameter called test endpoint, right? So I'll show it from the reference here. So if you go to the get recommendation tab, right, in the param, you need to pass in the track ID, right? And once you pass the track ID, then you will get the list of tracks, right? So let me do that over here as well. Track ID, and the value will be set from the earlier result. And since we set it as a collection variable, track ID, okay. Let's see, what did we see? Okay, we set it at track ID was small. Okay, track ID, cool. And then if you click on send, then you will get a list of like the recommendation, and we'll also apply the post request script. So if you go to the reference in the test tab, you will get this script just copied over here. So what we are doing over here is that, just getting the response body and just getting the first three songs, and then not the entire songs, because that is like, otherwise it will be overwhelming. We'll get hundreds of response, and from the first three response, we are also getting the variable name track, and we are setting an HTML template using handler.js for each of the track using this command, that is like it runs a loop for each of the items in the script, and we are displaying name along with the link to play that song, right? So that is all we are doing over here. And we also need to set up this track ID. We can filter this in this manner. So that is all what we did. So we can filter the query by providing a value of a track as well as the artist, and separate it by a plus section. So that is all what we did. Cool. And if you send it, then you will be able to visualize the response over here. Just a second. Let me save the test. Cool. This was showing in, is there some, if you like, I guess there might be some error like over there, right? So let us try to see what was the error. So okay, sorry, that was the track ID part. Mhm. Let us see if this the script is same or not. Yep, it is same. pm.visualizer.set top three track. Cool. Mhm. And let's see if the values are set. Awesome. So everything is done. So if you click on run now, let's get the track ID. Yep. In the console, you are getting the track ID. And if you click on recommendations, you will be able to see the recommendations, right? Yep. You can see like the top three songs are displayed over here. Yep, so this was a quick recap. I recommend all of you, if you have joined a bit late, to recap this recording of this stream. It will be available on Twitch as well as on YouTube and on Facebook as well. So, yep, so that was the recap that we all did. So basically, just understand that we did three different things. First, we set up the OAuth using Spotify Web API. So we got access to the access token, and then we use that access token to send request to this different request. And in the first request, we send the query parameters as the name of the track and the artist name, and we got a list of track, and from that we filtered the first result and we got the track ID from that, and we use that track ID as a collection variable, and in order to and we send that as a variable in the second request, and that is how we get the response. And after we get the response, we filter all the response, we selected the top three response, and we use handler.js to write a small HTML script file that will display this response in a beautiful manner so that our front the user can just find the songs, right? And that is how we did it, right? Just click on send, it will display you the new songs. Yep, cool. So that is all that we did. Awesome. Let me pull my. So, yep, that brings us to the end of the stream. I hope you all enjoyed. Let me know if you have any question, queries, or if you at least got some idea about how to work with some Spotify Wave API. I would really love to know that. Yep. Thank you, Siddharth. Thank you, Subhas. Awesome. Thank you, folks. Thank you, folks. Thank you, folks. Awesome, awesome. So before I leave, let me just tell you about the detail about the swag part as well, because that is important, right? So all of you, can be eligible to win. Let me just pull off that docs. Part three. So part three will be tomorrow. So the time is over here, Siddharth, and this time I'm pretty much sure that the time will not be messed up. So yeah, heads up for that. It will be exactly on the time it is mentioned in the docs itself. It will be tomorrow 4:30 p.m. IST, right? And you can check in over there. We'll be doing the same thing that we did today, right? So we'll be doing the same thing that we did today, but we'll be doing that using Node.js and not Postman. So today what we did everything from the Postman client, right? We did not write any code. So we'll be doing the same thing by writing some very basic Node.js code tomorrow and doing that. Okay, so we'll be using we don't even need to install Node.js in our machine. We'll be using some platform called Glitch, so it will provide an interactive coding platform on the browser itself. So we will be using that itself. So right, so we'll be doing that. So quick outro for the swag giveaway contest. So uh, what you can do is that you have two options. So the first option is to share whatever you have learned in either part one or part two or tomorrow. Like you can do this even right now. Like you are free to do it from now till April 10 p.m. IST, and mention. Don't forget to mention MLH and myself on Twitter and use hashtag GSW while tweeting about it. So this will make you eligible for the contest. Even a screenshot of the stream or the recordings or whatever work you have been doing would be fine, or just a basic tweet would also be fine. The next thing that you can do is share the workspace that you work, right? So if you go to Postman, right, you'll be able to you'll there will be an option to share your make your workspace visible, public, right? So if I click on streams, right, so let me go to the streams workspace. So if I go to the workspace setting, the visibility can be set to public over here, right? So and once you click on public, you can copy the URL, right? So just a second. So once you click on public, this right, this is the URL that you need to copy, right? So not the overview and after part. Just copy the link of the workspace and say like paste it in the Discord API with channel server. I'll just pull that as well to show you the Discord server. So in the Discord server, right? This is the server, right? So this is the server in the API week channel. So here is a thread, and I want all of you, to like say whatever you have learned or share the link of the workspace over here. So that will make you uh, eligible for the swag. You can do it right now. Yeah, Subhas, you can do it right now. Like from now till April 10th, whenever you feel so, you are fine. Also, make sure that you paste it over in Discord as well, because that will help us track the username. Okay, and we'll be doing the spin of wheel of spin tomorrow after the end of part 3, and we'll be doing the giveaway. Okay, cool. Just make sure that you mention whatever you have learned or share your workspace in the Discord thread as well, apart from Twitter. Cool. I hope that makes things clear. And yep, I guess that brings us to the end of this stream, right? Awesome. So let me close my screen. Awesome. So thank you, folks, once again for joining in. I really hope that you enjoyed a lot and learned something about Spotify API. Don't worry if you could not join in time. You can always watch this recording again. And I will also be doing the same thing tomorrow, but with Node.js and not Postman. So that will also help you get grabs of Spotify API and everything. We will be getting from scratch again. So make sure you join in over there also to win some swags as well. Make sure you will be there to be till the end. So thank you, folks, for joining in. Have a great time. Bye bye. I hope you enjoyed a lot. Bye bye. Thanks a lot. Bye bye. Bye bye, folks. Bye bye, folks. Cool. Mm.